Congressman Ruiz, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, given the recent attack on our nation's capital, do you feel safe in Washington?
Do I have a heightened sense of awareness of the dangers? I do. Do I think that the Capitol has made changes that can help increase our security? Yes, I do. I feel much more secure than I did when Trump loyalists attacked the Capitol with the intent of unlawfully keeping him in power, with the goal of targeting political opponents and killing them, hanging them for their own political illegal purposes. So right now, a lot of security, a lot of FBI investigations, and things are ramping up.
Have you personally had anyone send you a note or anything that would endanger your life?
Yes, I have been threatened. My family has been threatened. You don't have to go so far. You can just go on to the social media page and see who are Trump loyalists who are inciting further this violence and threatening me, my family. We've been receiving phone calls, and all of those who have been reported, the FBI and Capitol Police will be investigating them, and they will be prosecuting them. I take those threats very serious, and I will prosecute, and the government will prosecute, because threatening, of course, a member of Congress and acting on that threat is a federal crime that can face many years in prison.
There's a new poll out that indicates that 1 in 8 Republicans believe that Donald Trump is responsible for the attack on the Capitol. How do you think some of your constituents and colleagues on the Senate side are going to address the impeachment process?
I know that, first of all, let's take a step back, Joe, and understand that this was not a protest gone wild. This was pre-planned. They were invited to Washington, D.C. on the day of the Electoral College certification by Donald Trump. They were incited by months of misinformation and lies, saying that Donald Trump overwhelmingly won the election, that there was fraud. It was echoed by Republican members of Congress. And the Republican echo chambers on social media and in the press, without any evidence to suggest that there was overwhelming fraud. So the message that they were giving was that the election was stolen, that the next government, duly elected officials, are illegitimate, that they should not, in other words, they should not be recognized as people in power. And the psychological priming of fight like hell, it's going to be wild. Your government and your country is being taken away from you. Patriots, you gotta fight like hell. And then inviting them to the Capitol and with very specific targets to kill the political leaders. They have found pipe bombs, Molotovs, armed weapons. People went with zip ties to take hostages. They built a gallows with a noose to hang people publicly, all for the illegal attempt to keep Donald Trump in power. So this is going to be taken seriously as an insurrection, and that's why it was so necessary to impeach Donald Trump for many reasons. One is because the threat of violence is active. The people that came to attack the Capitol still have their guns in their hands, waiting directions from their leader, Donald Trump, and they are coordinating a return to the Capitol. They believe that Donald Trump speaks to them in code, Donald Trump has been briefed about this time of code. That's why there's a lot of double talk. 1 minute he condemns violence, on the other one, next he says other things, and then he says he loves them and he supports them. So there's a lot of mixed messages for the followers of Donald Trump, but they believe that throughout this entire process that they need to defend the country because there is an illegitimate government that was the idea planted by Donald Trump and others. So while he is still president, he has a lot of influence over these militias who follow him. So we needed to impeach him. We also needed to impeach him for future generations and any future potential wannabe tyrant to know that this isn't tolerable, that there will be consequences, and put in record that this needs to be dealt with to protect our democracy. And furthermore, after the inauguration, the president will no longer be in office. So removing him will no longer be the necessary goal. The necessary goal will be for the Senate to vote to not allow him ever run for office and try to destroy our democracy from within in messaging to his millions of followers to follow him in illegally keeping him in power. Now, mind you, he was signaling that he wanted to stay on for more than 2 terms. And so the president has these tendencies and is communicating them to his followers.
Congressman, have you spoken to any of your Republican colleagues in the Senate that believe that the election was stolen? And if you've had those conversations, are you able to sway them to your side, or how do conversations like that go?
I haven't had those conversations with Republicans in the Senate. But already the senator from Oklahoma has apologized to the people of Oklahoma. They are backtracking because they understand the seriousness of and the consequences of their actions. Look, Joe, it is very convenient for Republicans now wanting bygones to be bygones and to call for unity and to portray themselves as a victim when they are going to be investigated for being complicit in the incitement of the false narrative that the duly elected officials are illegitimate in holding their position and therefore should not be recognized, and therefore measures should be taken to overturn the government and illegally retain power for Donald Trump. So Trump and his loyalists are under hot water. They're going to be investigated. And so clearly it is convenient for them at this point to say, let's be united. Let's let things go for the sake of the American people, for unity, let bygones be bygones. It's very convenient for them when they are complicit in this attack against our government and our Constitution and our democracy. I think first, as any first responder will tell you, the number one thing you have to do is secure the scene. We have to ensure that our government and our democracy and our Constitution will be protected. We have to address the insurrection for what it is. And then at that point, once the threat of armed insurrection is quelched in our government, then we can talk about the next steps and what we can do.
Okay, Congressman, our window is going to close pretty quickly here, so I want to get to some other issues if we can quickly. The coronavirus and the rollout of that, as we know, is a mess. What can you do? What can the government do in order to correct that at this point? Because some people are going to figure, I'm not even going to bother trying to get the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. So the failure of the vaccine rollout is multifactorial at different levels. One is we are now seeing the consequence of not calling for the Defense Production Act by Donald Trump in the massive production of these vaccines in order to meet the timelines that they set for themselves. So currently, and we knew that it would take time, but they are under production even within their own plan. So we need to massively ramp up production of the vaccines by calling for the Defense Production Act quickly. And second of all, we need to understand that public health is practiced on the ground. Public health is practiced with real people in real communities, and that is the responsibility of county public health departments. There is a frustration by the constituents, which I share, that even my office's calls to the county have been very slow in response to get information to share with our constituents in terms of when they can get the vaccine, where they can get the vaccine. Those plans in coordination with the healthcare system is done locally by the county. And so I think that there needs to be more communication in English and Spanish, more frequent updates as to the virus, and repetition is key in talking about the precautions that are necessary. There needs to be a ramp up in public health workers with volunteers. I have doctors calling my office saying that they have 100 volunteers from their clinic ready to go. Where can they get the information? How can they get vaccines to go into the community to vaccinate people? And we can get a call back or an answer from the local county. So there's a lot of delays on the ground. Look, I've been on this since day one. I predicted everything that has been going on. I have been giving my recommendations on television. I've been reaching out to communities, organizations to help them be more efficient with their plans. And I have yet to receive a call from the county public health department consulting with me on how we can work collaboratively to message the precautions, how we can collaboratively work to reach out to the hardest hit communities. Instead, I've been doing this on my own with other local organizations to provide the information and the resources to those that are most vulnerable, that have bared the brunt of this COVID pandemic and that are dying at disproportionate rates.
Well, a failure to communicate, obviously. This weekend promises to be violent in 50 capital cities. The president issued a video calling for calm. Is that enough? Will that do it? Will that bring the calmness to all of this violence?
Joe, the president has mixed messages. On one side, he says what he needs because he knows he's going to go to court and he wants proof that he said something to the contrary of his charges. But for every one time he says that, he says 100 times to fight like hell, that this next duly elected government is illegitimate, that your government was stolen, that your country is being lost, and that you need to stand up and fight like hell. In fact, Giuliani said trial by combat, and his followers take him seriously. So no, I don't think that one video from the president when he's been giving mixed messages is enough. I think that the FBI, the Secret Service, the Attorney General, Department of Justice, and others are going to be prosecuting everybody who attempts to continue this false attempt to have an armed uprising. And until we secure the scene, then we can start talking about some of the next steps we need to repair the trust that individuals have on truth and science, data, and start to build unity that we need.
We have the inauguration coming up in just a few days. Should that be moved inside, given the atmosphere in Washington right now and security?
There's been a massive ramp up of National Guardsmen, of the FBI, the Secret Service. The Department of Defense is put on standby if necessary. They have the entire D.C. metropolitan area positioned for not only intelligence gathering, of course, but also for any potential uprising. The white supremacy, white nationalists, Trump loyalists have been coordinating and putting calls for millions of people to have another armed insurrection. They plan to surround the Capitol and kill Democrats. They plan to surround the Supreme Court and not let anybody in or out. And they plan to surround the White House to protect the president, all under the belief of the president's lies that this country was stolen from them and that they need to take it back. And that this new duly elected leaders are illegitimate and therefore should not be recognized.
Okay, but answer the question.
So there is security.
But answer the question.
No,
do you think it should be moved inside because of security issues?
No, I think that they have, Joe, they are assessing the security at every step of the way. And if there's any elevation in that security, they will make accommodations to go inside. But as of now, they have everything in place to have a very well-guarded inauguration with very little people physically distanced outside.
All right, let's move on to another topic, and that is President-elect Joe Biden has come out with a $1.9 trillion relief package. Are you all in on that?
Yes, I'm all in on that package, which will finally give the aid that our cities and our county and our states need to combat this virus. It will give an additional $1,400 stimulus payment to families who are struggling. The $600 was not enough. It would extend the unemployment insurance with another extra $400 a month. It would start making significant investments in schools so they can have the infrastructure necessary to keep their students safe so that we can more quickly put them back into school. They will have increased protections for high-risk essential workers who are keeping society functioning while bearing the brunt of getting infection and dying. So all of those provisions I agree with, and further investments in those things.
All right, and since you've been in Washington, is it worth it anymore to serve in Congress the way both sides are at each other? It wasn't like that when you first got there, was it?
There was a hyper-partisan extreme gamemanship when I got there that I completely oppose and still do. But what we are dealing with now, Joe, is not anything normal. We are dealing with sedition. We're dealing with armed insurrection inspired by the lies that the election was stolen and that the duly elected next government administration are illegitimate, and therefore Trump loyalists and Trump followers need to take back their government and fight like hell. So there is a different component to this. This is not normal. And now more than ever, I am so determined to fulfill my oath in protecting the Constitution, of not only giving a message to my constituents, but to the nation and to the globe who are watching what is happening now, that no violence or no threat of violence will ever deter American democracy and the American spirit to fulfill and protect the Constitution, that we are indeed a nation of laws, and that we will prosecute those who attempt to illegally retain power and conspire to do so to the fullest extent of the law. Because our government must stand, because we are the beacon of democracy, and we need to protect that for future generations.
Dr. Ruiz, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.